The old generation is done. 3 brand new shiny admirals are coming your way. And the fun thing is, we've already met each and every single one of them. Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece. My name is Liam and this video is about seamen. S-E-A-M-E-N, that is, because One Piece is a very generational story. In fact, as we speak, we are watching the rise of one pirate generation in a grand effort to supplant another. After Wano, we are going to have a whole new power structure in this piracy realm, but an often neglected area of generational shift is that of the Marines. So what if I told you we'd already met our next set of admirals? You'd probably say, maybe, but why should I believe you? I mean, you're an alleged Australian obsessed with fictional pirates on the internet after all, and well, that's a fair point. But you should believe me because of reasons. Reasons that we will get to after acknowledging Zane Zirkle, Brian Gurley, and No Shame, who has labeled me as, quote, the best YouTuber to watch on the treadmill, which I appreciate because most people say that they watch this channel on the toilet. In any case, all 3 of these magnifipods did the amazing thing of subscribing to the Grand Line Review, thus resulting in consistent injections of One Piece culture being administered directly into their YouTube feeds. And if you want to be our next subscriber of the day, then hit the button and please do say hi in the comments below if you are a new member of the Grand Fleet. Welcome. But our first admiral is an obvious one, and that obvious one is a Koby. From chore boy to chore man, Koby has been steadily growing in the series in tandem with Luffy. And whilst Koby did have a bit of a slower start in life, he always held the Marine dream to become a Marine. But just like a Charmander slaughtering an entire horde of Executor in episode 41 of the original Pokemon anime, Koby's dream would suddenly evolve. In chapter 443, Koby finally summoned up the courage to state his ambitions aloud, which was that he wanted to become a Marine Admiral. And because this is One Piece, dreams come true. Unless you're a bad guy, in which case your dreams can just F right off. But Koby is no bad guy, and what reinforces my confidence that he will 100% become an Admiral are actually Luffy's words in response, which were, if Koby says he can do it, he can do it. I know it. Luffy rather controversially choosing to use the word it there 3 different times in a single statement. But with One Piece, the only thing more powerful than believing in yourself is having Luffy believe in you as well. And what happens is that you start believing in the Luffy who believes in you, which makes Luffy believe in the you who believes in him who believes in you. And it just becomes one big believey circle jerk. That's not it though, because Koby does also have the distinction of being trained by a Monkey D. Garp, something that I think gets neglected quite a bit. It's very much the Marine equivalent of Luffy being trained by Silver's Ray Lee. Koby is a proper prodigy, and every time we see him, his skills have evolved to a shocking degree. The only thing that does give me pause for thought is Koby's current rank. At the moment, Koby is a captain, which is only 3 ranks removed from an admiral, but it still does seem like a very long distance to go. Doesn't matter though, because what matters is cool names. Because it's not enough to lay out who is going to be an admiral, we also need to discover their epithet. And because we're talking about a 3rd generation of admirals, we can find some funky solutions rather immediately. By which I mean the 1st generation of admirals is represented by primary colors, red, blue, and yellow. Unless you're talking about light, because those primary colors are red, green, and blue. But let's stick to not that. The 2nd generation of admirals then came with secondary color schemes. Fujitora's purple glory is a mere fusion of Kuzan's blue and Sakazuki's red. Meanwhile, Mr. Green Bull is a combination of again Kuzan's blue, but with Kizaru's yellow. The only secondary color we're missing is orange, but that's fine. Because Kizaru, much like a bottle of urine in the hot summer sun, simply needs to mellow his yellow to the point where it becomes orange. Which brings us to tertiary colors, of which there are about a gazillion options, but given that Koby's defining color trait is pink, let's go ahead and call him the Pink Rabbit. Wait, I think we already have one of those. Maybe the Pink Panther? No, actually, let's get rid of pink altogether, and we're going to call Koby the Rose Dolphin. Why dolphin? Well, because according to Oda, that is the animal that Koby resembles the most. Next up, we have one-time Smoky Boy, who, hierarchically speaking, is probably the closest reasonable candidate to becoming an admiral, considering that he is already a vice admiral. But more so than that, he's also a natural leader with a whole faction of Marines who believe more in him than the overall system itself. The G5 Marines are a very problematic, rebellious bunch who are said to, and I quote, be insane, cruel, and merciless people who stick needles into pirates, feed them to sharks, or use them for campfire kindling. And while these are supposed to be just rumors, we do actually have evidence of at least the latter. Because in Karabo's cover story, Jinbei turned him into the G5 branch, and the Marines there promptly decided to burn Karabo at the stake, much like the deserved swamp witch he is. Questionable pirate practices aside though, they are a faction that seems to exist against the grain of the standard Marine, almost a completely different faction altogether. So politically speaking, making someone like Smoker into an admiral would be a solid idea to appease that group if nothing nothing else. And I say nothing else because, to be perfectly honest, I'm not sure what else Smoker brings. In fact, let's go ahead and reveal his Admiral epithet, which is the White Camel, an animal that I have chosen because Smoker is an absolute champ at carrying all of those L's on his back. And white because that's his thing, all of his attacks are named white something or other. And no, it's not a tertiary color. In fact, white isn't a color at all, although it is defined as the sum of all possible colors, which I suppose is like saying infinity isn't a number because it is the sum of all possible numbers. Is it? I don't know what I'm talking about. In conclusion though, white is weird. Something we haven't brought up yet though is that our Admiral criteria also very much relies on those with a similar sense of justice. People who aren't absolutely undyingly loyal to the Marines as an organization and who are pursuing true justice, which Smoker certainly falls into. Depending on the circumstance, he will side with pirates or probably any group that presents the correct path forward. And given that One Piece will probably have that sort of lovely, sappy, happy ending, we will likely see a full complement of good guy Marine Admiral guys. To our third candidate now, and we are taking a trip to the museum because it is a dinosaur. And Drake, well, Drake is one I'm not so confident with, but he has the same sort of factors going for him that Kobe and Smoker do. He's pretty undeniably on the side of what we'll call true justice as a captain of sword and demonstrably through his actions on Onigashima, but Drake also comes with some very solid lineage. Many people forget this because many people forget many things, but Drake was actually found as a child by Sengoku during Law's flashback. And from that point on, Sengoku actually raised Drake like a father. Or I guess he raised Drake like a son and he was the father. I said that confusingly. But whatever he did with Drake was very similar to what happened with Rocinante. Also of note is that Sengoku's fathering skills are, I'm gonna say, quite questionable. Particularly since what he seems to do is raise young children just to have them infiltrate the dark, dank world of piracy on his behalf and sometimes end up being murdered by flamboyant flamingos. Still, in the same way that Kobe was trained by Garp the hero, Drake has been raised by an officially even more decorated and respectsome Marine. So I would say that Drake definitely has the inherited world pedigree required to be an end of series Admiral. As for his epithet, I think it would be highly appropriate if he were to be dubbed as the Chartreuse Lizard. Chartreuse being the middle point where green meets yellow, and as a result becoming the most disgusting color in all of existence. Actually, maybe the Chartreuse Dragon, because most dinosaurs in Japanese tend to be lumped into the dragon classification. As shown by the fact that we now have 6 different Zoan fruits with the name Ryu no Mi, and none of them are actual dragons, despite the fact that we also have 2 literal dragon devil fruits as well. Ryu means dragon, by the way, and that's something that I probably should have mentioned earlier. I'm gonna throw a wild card into the mix now. This is not a character who you would traditionally think of when the words Admiral pop up, but how about Sabo? My logic here being, well, honestly mostly non-existent, but the Marines will eventually be overthrown and reformed in some manner, so if the Revolutionary Army end up being the heroes of the world, then it might be very beneficial to have one of their members in a position of leadership, and there's really no one more fitting for that task than Sabo. He already has the raw power to fight on the esteemed Admiral level, he also has a fearsome Logia as well, and we could even give him the epithet of the Vermilion Chameleon, because he is very good at imitating others. I don't think that'll actually happen, I'm just desperately trying to think outside of the box because the toys that we have left inside the box are, well, they're pretty underwhelming. Our next most viable options are the characters Choton and Momo Usagi, the fan-made admirals who Oda actually put into the series, albeit in the Vice Admiral position. But they already have epithets though, which is nice, being Brown Pig and Pink Rabbit respectively. So maybe there's a situation where they rise to become admirals by the end of the series, which would admittedly be pretty hilarious. To think that 2 fan-made admirals eventually became canon admirals. And to be fair, they do seem to be more in the Garp camp of justice than the Sakazuki branch of being a dick, so there is some hope. I mean, it would be a good joke, which is why I would never put it past Oda completely. But after them, we arrive at names like Helmeppo and Hina, although come to think of it, I think that Helmeppo's natural position is that of Rear Admiral due to his butt-crack chin. But with both of them, I suppose they might not be the most out of the question to become admirals. In fact, I could see them both becoming Vice Admirals at the very least. However, taking that top spot is a bit of a stretch. Except it's not the top spot because we've kind of neglected that in this discussion so far. The new series of admirals is wonderful and everything, but we are also going to need a new fleet admiral, as it seems very unlikely that Sakazuki is going to have a change of heart and start doing things that aren't mass genocide. And immediately the natural candidate has to be Kuzan. He ticks all of the boxes: big power, big justice, big nose. He has everything we're looking for. And it would be a nice natural progression because he climbs the entire ladder and really earned that top spot, unlike other speculated candidates such as Garp, who decided to halt at the Vice Admiral stage. And furthermore, I think that Garp might just be too old. For all intents and purposes, he's already retired from the Marines, and yeah, he does still do things here and there, like escort mermaid princesses for fun, but it's exceptionally unlikely that he'd return to full duty, especially in the position of ultimate leadership. But in more reasonable news, how about Fujitora? I think I actually like the idea of Fujitora as Fleet Admiral more than Kuzan. He has the whole justice is blind thing going for him, as well as the respect and prestige of being a current admiral, and he's still young enough to serve a decade or two leading this organization into a bright future. Metaphorically bright, of course, because Fujitora can't lead anyone to literal brightness. But something else that does need to be asked is, will there even be admirals by the end of One Piece? It's definitely possible that this system collapses or dissolves alongside the world government, and we'll just have a completely new system of law in order to take its place. I think the Marines will still exist though, because they are technically a separate organization from the world government. They're just the military branch that takes orders from the world government. So all that really needs to happen is they start taking orders from someone else, maybe someone who isn't a celestial bunglenut. To me, all of this comes down to Kobe though. The reason why I believe the Marines, and thus the Admirals, will still exist is purely because of Kobe's dream. Because to become an Admiral, he needs to be able to become an Admiral. Seems quite simple, really. Just as simple as clicking this next video, because there's always more to learn, explore, and experience with this wonderful series, so I look forward to seeing you there.